For generations, our downtown, like many other downtowns in New Jersey, thrived on industry and commerce. Well, now in 2009, what needs to happen is you need to bring a neighborhood. You need to create housing. You need to create dining and retail and excitement. And here in West Orange, we're ready to do that. Welcome to downtown West Orange. I'm Mayor John McKeon, and I'm standing in front of the epicenter of our $250 million redevelopment zone. The $250 million development is located right next to the Edison National Historic Site, a national park that draws tens of thousands of visitors each year. My goal is for every resident of the town to understand the project so collectively we can move forward as a community. Now, there hasn't been anything changed as to how the project was designed except for a portion of the way it's going to be financed. How do you attract capital to an area in need of redevelopment? That's through a special state law that involves the floating of RAB bonds. Now, usually investors in RAB bonds will come from the private world, but with the collapse of the credit markets, the interest rate they command now is between 9 and 11%. Therefore, we could use the town's ability to borrow at a much cheaper rate in order to finance the project in a more steady manner, and all that extra money that we won't have to pay to interest will come back to the town. Now, ironically, you may hear that Bank of America pulled out of the project. What's ironic about it is that it's us that pulled away from them. Because they charge the higher interest rate and we're able to borrow at a lower rate, the difference in that interest rate will be millions of dollars coming back to the West Orange taxpayer. So who is the PRISM Group? They comprise of basically two individuals who have over 100 years of experience in real estate development. Now, their financing source is actually an equity fund that manages the funds for major universities in the United States. So it's not a traditional bank, but the money is coming from endowment funds of major universities. They've so far put $37 million of their money up. And what that's done is it's purchased the property, it's done all kinds of environmental cleanup, and it's started to do preliminary demolition. Now we need to invest our $28 million. But what are they going to do first? They're going to come up with another $20 million of cash, plus a construction loan of another $24 million before we put a dollar into the project. That's over $75 million invested before a West Orange bond goes forward, again pledged against the future revenues to help finance the project. It's a winner. Well, let's talk real estate. Now, particularly in today's market, people are legitimately asking, can they sell? And what I'm here to tell you is, of course, that the developer is not ready to put up $75 million if they don't believe in the project. And we as a community should also. But why? Well, they're priced to sell. The average unit of the first phase of the 87 are going to price between $320,000 and $370,000. There's been an independent market study done by Coldwell Banker that says they're priced to sell. The units are very gracious. They're 2 bedrooms, over 1,000 square feet. They'll be appointed just beautifully. And we're very, very optimistic that they're selling, not because I believe in this town, and so should you, but because independent appraisers and realtors have told us so. You may ask, how is it that we're going to get paid back for this bond? Well, in 2011, when we borrow money from the bank to be able to help finance the project, that money gets paid back through future taxes from residents that haven't even moved in yet. Now, different from the way you pay taxes, when you pay taxes, your dollar goes about 1/3 to the town for municipal services, about 60% to the Board of Ed to provide the schools that we provide, and the rest, about 18% or so, to the county. Well, in this instance, in a designated redevelopment area, the county only gets 5%. The town gets its normal portion, and the Board of Ed, instead of that big piece, just gets paid per students. And there's not going to be very many students that are going to come out of there, but the town will certainly be made whole. The extra money goes back to pay back the bank. That's called a pilot program. Now, because we're able to borrow at a lower interest rate, the town's going to get that much more back. Over the life of this bond, $19 million more, just in annual payments, let alone another $10 million that we'll get that we can use for things like fire trucks and infrastructure, capital improvements for money we'd have to spend anyway. This is going to help stabilize taxes. Now, in these very difficult economic times, people have said to me, Mayor, is there going to be risk in this? I've told them, well, sure, there's risk. There's risk in everything, but it's managed risk. And in my view, it's a risk we can't afford not to take. Now, why is it managed? Well, before a dollar of the bonds will be forward into this project in 2011, the following things have to happen. There's going to be a fully completed 635 vehicle parking deck finished on Main Street. In the Edison Battery Factory, Phase 1 will have to be completed, which includes 87 residential units with certificate of occupancies ready to go. There'll be 18,000 square foot of retail, finished. All of the infrastructure, done. The actual building itself, the outside of it, the facade, finished. Internal workings, done and completed. That is a $75 million investment in the most challenged area of our town before we put a penny behind that. You know, another way that we're managing the risk is a concession by Prism that any dollar that comes from the sale of the units won't be taken at all as profit, but will be reinvested back into the project as we proceed. Another point I want you to consider is that if you look at redevelopment projects all around the state, often municipalities are called upon to pay for some type of public amenity, like a parking garage. Well, in this deal, it's not structured this way. It's being paid for 100% by Prism. So when you think about the fact that there's a $250 million investment in our downtown, us paying $28 million for that alone as for infrastructure would be reasonable. In this instance, we've guaranteed not only the amenity is going to be there, but we're going to get paid back for it. As I stated to you, I believe very strongly that these units will sell. But supposing they don't, what's the worst case scenario here? And that is that there are $75 million invested in our downtown, and the town owns it. And then we'll go forward to make sure that the bank gets their full amount of their investment back, and we'll have some level of development down there that will be some action and activity and newness and vitality in the most challenged area of our community. West Orange and its economic diversity is really what makes this community a great place to live and a great place to raise children. But there's challenges when you have areas that are more urban than suburban, and we've got to pay attention to them. That's why redevelopment is so important. A vibrant downtown is what we need to anchor the entire community. And this project is the solution the Downtown West Orange Alliance, the West Orange Planning Board, Township Council members, community groups, friends, and neighbors have been working on so hard for the past 10 years. As we went through this process over the last 10 years or so, beside all of our internal expertise and community input, what we did was go to get outside experts, some of the finest lawyers and economists and engineers in the entire state and region who have done this before, and they've helped us craft a deal to protect the township and to poise this project for success. In these most difficult of economic times, people can prey on one's fears. Using a word bailout, which has now become part of our nomenclature, is an easy way to try to redirect someone's attention to the facts. The truth be told is I've never heard of a bailout where an investor is coming up with another $20 million beyond the $35 million they've already invested. This isn't a bailout, rather it's a financial structuring to enable us to bring a $250 million investment to our Main Street and not to put a dime forward until $75 million is already there. Preying on people's concerns with New Jersey's high property taxes, folks point to this bond and say, oh, it's going to raise your taxes by $28 million. Downtown redevelopment will not raise our property taxes. If you're a student of history and look at recent developments of communities that went from suburban to urban, you have to appreciate when you don't take care of just one section of town, it's only inevitable that the other sections don't do well. This is why it's so important for us to focus our attention and time and our resources toward our downtown. As goes Main Street, goes West Orange. I am thrilled that citizens are asking questions. That's what good citizens do. And I'm here not only to answer them, but to continue to provide a dialogue and information. Go to our website. All the redevelopment agreements are there for you to see. Get in touch with us. Come to the public meetings. Learn more. Understand the facts. And I'm certain when you do that, you'll come to the same conclusion that I have as your mayor, and that redevelopment is an investment in our community that we can't afford not to make.